on Facebook Live, and we are recording today, Saturday morning, on a live broadcast that's going to be simulcast later today or later this weekend, both on YouTube and Facebook. So feel free to share this with your friends, because we may be rebroadcasting it one more night before the election on Tuesday. So it'll be on Facebook and on YouTube. You can subscribe or like our pages. You'll get notified about what's going on. Today we're going to be discussing what's on the ballot Tuesday, which is the transit the transit referendum, which is being reintroduced on the ballot again for another vote, and we're going to be discussing what makes this a little different from the last one. As well, we're going to be talking about what's going on in the city, including Crooked Creek Trail, the pedestrian bridge, the Spalding Drive expansion. We're going to be discussing crime prevention initiatives, including the cameras. We'll be sharing some slides on here as well, showing where those cameras are and things like that. I have two great guests today, but before we get to them, I just want to introduce our lead sponsor, who is Hargrave Fiber. They're a fiber optic internet company that provides fast service and office tools to be able to use, whether you're in your office or your staff is still teleworking, which many people are still doing. They're a big Southeast company. They're big here in Peachtree Corners. They're really big in the communities they go into. They become part of that community in a way by supporting different ventures, like Hargrave Fiber supports Curiosity Lab Innovation Center, is doing things with the city. So great company to have around, and I'm happy they're a lead sponsor of ours. Go find out more about them at hargravefiber.com. They have a special promotion going on. I think it's a Visa gift card, $1,000 for those that come on as a new client that qualify for that. So check them out. Our guests today are city council members, and let's bring them on. Hold on a second. We'll just get them going here. They are city council members that are representing, let's get you guys on. Phil Sod, representing District 1. He's post 1. Phil's on the right side. And Weare Gratwick, who's on the left side here. Hey, guys.
Good to be with you, Rico.
Good to see you, Rico. Good to see you guys, and thanks for coming out Saturday morning for this. And also with the technical problems at the beginning. It's a cat video, but we won't get into it. But I appreciate you guys being with us. Weare Gratwick represents Post 6. He's an at-large member. That means everyone in the city votes for that position. And Phil represents District 1. Describe where District 1 is for those that aren't familiar with that, Phil.
Sure, Rico. So District 1 actually borders with the city of Dunwoody along Winners Chapel Road and goes up Spalding Drive, cuts across Holcomb Bridge, and then goes all the way to Buford Highway and back down to Amwile and connects to Winners Chapel.
Excellent. So what we're going to be discussing today, let's jump right into it, right? We're going to be discussing the transit referendum. So I'm going to have Phil lead off that discussion about what's different. Why is it on the ballot again, Phil?
Sure. So Rico, when voters go to the polls for the general election on November 3rd, the last question on the ballot is the transit referendum. And this is a very important question because it could impact sales taxes for the next 30 years. So the referendum is a 1% sales tax increase for the next 30 years. When you look at the state of Georgia, there's 159 counties. Gwinnett County is growing in such a pace that it's on track to become the largest county in the state. Right now, we're about 950,000 citizens. Studies show that by the year 2040, we could be up to 1.5 million citizens. So we've got a significant traffic problem in the county, and this plan is Gwinnett County's way of accommodating current and future transit needs.
Yeah, I'm going to just throw up a slide, if you will, so this way people can see what this looks like. So this is the first slide off the town hall meeting presentation you had just recently. And this looks like the map and how that would affect Gwinnett County once it's fully done, right? Because not all of this exists right now, or most of it. And that big, thick red part towards the bottom part of which I was able to highlight it, that would be, I guess, the Martyr station, the heavy rail that would be coming into Gwinnett?
That would be the heavy rail.
That would be the heavy rail. Okay, and the rest of it is transit, buses, and additional?
Bus rapid transit, Artelia rapid transit, local bus lines.
Okay. So, all right. So that's cool. Let's just let's bring you guys back on and take the map off. So I think the last time that was defeated, right? The heavy rail was still part of this. The difference, though, is what's different than because the heavy rail's back in here again.
So yes, you're right. So local control is one of the differences. And by the way, there was an article in the AJC Thursday morning that I thought did a good job of clarifying the differences between 2019 and this time. But local control, the dollars stay in Gwinnett County. They're collected through the ATL, not part of MARTA. The only involvement MARTA will have is the 4-mile stretch of the heavy rail up to the OFS site there at Jimmy Carter and 85.
Okay.
And the reason they have to be involved in that is that state law, that anything's heavy rail has to be MARTA. Everything else will be Gwinnett County controlled.
I think originally, if it was last year, it was the tax would be administered through a different organization that was a coalition of counties.
ATL.
Right? ATL. But now that all that money will be taken care of by the county.
Well, I think it's collected through the ATL this time and not
Right.
through MARTA. Before, I think it would have been through MARTA. Now it's through the ATL, which is the Atlanta Transit Link, which is
Okay.
was established a couple, 3 years ago to kind of be the overseeing body of all transit throughout the metropolitan Atlanta area, so that there is some. So when planning is done, it's done in partnership and not in separate silos.
Okay. So just to let's narrow this down to City of Peachtree Corners, and let's be a little like selfish here about why the City of Peachtree Corners would be interested its residents to have this should be an important part of what we're doing. I remember there was a controversy at one point about where a transit hub might be. I think that was explained properly in my mind. But so tell us why the city, though, why residents here should be. Not that you're advocating for it because you're not allowed to, but what would be the advantage of putting something like this in place?
Yeah, Rick, and you make a good point. We aren't here to advocate, but we are here to help provide our citizens with more education because this is an important decision. We want to make sure when they go to the polls, they're very informed. But within Peachtree Corners, part of the plan includes a hub that you pointed out the map, but also 4 transit centers. One of those transit centers will be in Peachtree Corners. The location is still to be determined as the plan gets fully laid out. Also, the plan will expand the park and ride locations. Right now, there's 4 in the county. It will expand up to 10. So one of the additional new park and rides will also be in Peachtree Corners. There will be 4 BRTs or the bus rapid transit, and this is kind of like a high-speed bus. These are the long buses, the 60-foot buses. They ride in a dedicated right-of-way lane. So there'll be 4 of those throughout the county. One of those will also be in Peachtree Corners. So Peachtree Corners is getting a good share of what the county's plan is because of our large population here. And also, an advantage for Peachtree Corners citizens is also kind of to the point you made earlier. What's different than the last time is went up for vote. A couple of those things there'll be more regional connections. So this will allow citizens in our city to connect to Alpharetta, to connect to other regional places like Athens. They'll be able to connect to other MARTA stations, Gwinnett Place Mall, the colleges, Gwinnett Tech, Georgia Gwinnett College, and also the timeline is much more aggressive than it was before. So we could start seeing, an impact of this within several years, more buses on the street. Within 5 years, the current bus routes and bus services could be double within that time frame. So there's a lot of advantages for our citizens.
So does the I think one of the things, and I haven't, I'll be honest, I haven't written any of the Gwinnett buses, right? So I'm not talking from experience. talking from anecdotal, listening to other people that some of them do ride, that have been on it. You know, I think part of it is that there's actually currently not enough frequency, maybe, and not enough buses on, which would increase the frequency, right? So how do you do that? Chicken and egg, right? Do we need enough people on it? How do we get people moving towards that type of transit versus using their car?
I think one of the things one of the first things Peachtree Corners would see is the arterial bus lines, which are they're not in dedicated bus lanes like the BRT or bus rapid transit is, but it does have signalized priority going through signals, and it gets people where they want to go faster, less stops. So it's more direct connect. And I think that's what we'll initially see in Peachtree Corners, obviously up the main thoroughfares, which are Peachtree Industrial and Peachtree Parkway. So connectivity, obviously having connectivity to the Doraville MARTA station, getting to the airport. And these are things that are important to the businesses here in Peachtree Corners. Obviously, it's the lifeblood of those businesses are the workers and getting them to work once we can return safely to work. And having accessibility, those are the drivers that if you are, those are the things you're looking at if you favor transit or this referendum.
Okay, and then as far as transit hub, I don't know if it's already predefined where that may be. I know the negative side of seeing a transit hub sometimes, of the way it looks and the way it could end up looking in a few years. Some people look at just the transit hub being just that, or if there's multi-use surrounding it, where there's retail and apartments and offices, looks a little different, that type of transit hub.
It's interesting, Rico, that if you look at some of the other large cities in the country, where transit stations are located are actually, in affluent, economically advantaged areas. Atlanta's track record with MARTA, what have you, is just you haven't seen until recently. And I would point out the city of Decatur, and more recently, Chamblee and Doraville are experiencing economic growth as a part of being connected and having that transit station. So I think in Atlanta, that's probably going to turn the corner. I think it has to turn the corner for us to continue to grow and be competitive for businesses, both in the metro region and, of course, here in Peachtree Corners.
Sure, and like Phil said, these things take time, even though the shortened, we're still talking 4 or 5 years maybe before we see some activity that way, because things have to be planned out, right? Routes have to be, easements have to be taken, or things have to be purchased to be able to make the infrastructure work. So planning it out over the next decade is important if we're going to be 1.5 million people in Gwinnett.
Yes.
We could be a city just by ourselves almost, right?
We're already larger than most cities.
Yes.
And it's not as simple, Rico, as just writing a check for a bus. Those buses are built to order. When they get ready to buy a bus, it's an 18-month plan to build that bus.
Right, and also there's probably going to be public discussions, right? Should it be electric? Should it be natural gas? How are we going to approach a smart future if we're still going to be using gas guzzling transportation? How are we going to be sustainable? I'm sure those will be some discussions.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. So for those that may have further questions about transit, I'm going to have that link to the AJC article on the show notes. I'll be posting over the weekend, so you could check that out. Is there anything else you guys want to say about transit?
I would just reiterate what Phil said, is the primary differences between this and the 2019 referendum is the local control, getting the services to the Gwinnett County residents sooner than the original referendum called for, and as Phil pointed out, more connectivity. And I think the connectivity directly to Athens, to UGA, is pretty cool.
Yes, I saw that. What was that? I think at one point, wasn't that called the brain train or something? Or
that was originally, I think that was the original thought. It was to connect Emory, Georgia Tech, and University of Georgia.
Oh yeah, that would be phenomenal, right?
Yes.
And two other points, just before we leave this topic, and that's the economic impact. The objective is to help get people to their jobs
Right.
much easier. So this plan will connect to, some of the major employment centers throughout the city, downtown, midtown, Emory, and there was a study done by the American Public Transit Association, which shows for every dollar spent on transit, there's a $4 economic impact. So that's part of this decision to consider as well. What the county's trying to do is get people closer to transit. Right now, approximately 17% of the county can walk to transit locations. And the new plan will move that from 17% to 57% of the county citizens can walk to transit. So
over a decade or so, I guess.
Yes,
that's right. Over the plan. So there's also a really good website, Rico, for more information. Voters have a chance to look at it before they go out there, and it's GwinnettTransitPlan.com.
Okay, cool. And we'll have that link in the show notes as well for you guys that may need it. All right, cool. Let's move on to, let's have Weare lead us off on the discussion about the bridge and where we are with that, actually, the pedestrian bridge.
Okay. As everybody can see, it is rapidly approaching completion. As a matter of fact, it will be open on November the 18th. And we're excited about it. I'm excited about the way it's come together. I think in stages, it's hard to judge, what the finished product's going to look like. And I did have the opportunity this week to, at 6:30, 7 o'clock in the morning, go out there when they were testing the lights on the bridge. And it looks very good. So the letters will be white and a warm glow. It won't be a harsh light, but a warm light. And then the cubes, two on each side at the top of the bridge on the ends, those will be illuminated as well. Most evenings they'll be white, but they're programmed. They'll be green on St. Patrick's Day. They'll be red on Valentine's Day. They're red, white, and blue on 4th of July and other patriotic holidays. So that's pretty exciting. I think people are going to like that. I think that gives us a unique, distinctive feature to the city.
I can't wait to actually be able to walk across that bridge. I'm sure there's always people on both sides of the equation, right? People that feel that we spent too much money. So then we can get people the right facts. Are we on budget, under budget? Where are we with that?
My understanding is we are on budget.
Okay.
We're a little bit COVID related. We're a little bit behind schedule. I think we had hoped to have it open in October,
Right.
But we're at November 18th. So,
Okay.
So I'm pleased with where we are. I'm told it's within budget, which is important.
Cool. I feel like Obamacare. When people used to say, when Obama said, let it be out for a year or two, and people will get used to it, they're going to want to keep it, right? Obviously, we're going to keep it. But the fact is, I think once it gets used, right? I mean, between festivals, God willing, COVID sort of calms down a little bit. Between festivals and the town center and all sorts of other things going on.
I think, Rico, you make a good point. Just from a safety standpoint, I was over there at town center the other night and saw a family trying to cross at that intersection, which is very difficult to do at street grade. But part of the mayor and council has been prioritize safety. Sidewalks, the number of sidewalks we put in, I think there's $2.5 million in the capital improvement budget for sidewalks over the next 5 years. And I know we've done at least that in the past 5 years. We'll talk about the multi-use trail in a minute, but that's all part of improving not only connectivity, but safety within the city.
Yeah, it's all come together really well, I think. So everything's pretty much there. It's just a matter now of it fine tuning, I guess, and then.
Yeah, I think you've got the last things are getting the elevator, having the elevator tested and inspected. Some of the things that you can't see, but visually, Right now, the city logo's been put on the side. It's got the lights are operable. It looks ready to go. So we're close.
All excited. That's cool. So let's we could talk about the city on a lot of different topics, but we're going to stick to a few of them. So then this way people can get an update of what's going on with the immediate things happening. So let's bring in Phil to lead us off on this discussion about the Crooked Creek Trail and what's going on there.
Right, Rico. What's interesting is a lot of the surveying that we've done and polling throughout our residents in Peacht Corners, the number one most requested recreational asset was multi-use trails. And so we've started the process of building the Crooked Creek multi-use trail, which will be a 10 to 12 foot wide trail that runs along Crooked Creek. And there it is, the big green arrow in the middle right there. It's approximately 2.7 miles long, and it's part of the 11.5 mile multi-use trail system that's planned throughout the city. So if you see the top of the arrow on your screen there, where the arrow connects with that black line, that is the border between the city of Peacht Corners and the city of Sandy Springs. And that black line is Spalding Drive. So that's the start of the trail. And then it runs along the creek and comes out on a trailhead at Peacht Parkway. Is the end of it, 2.7 miles longer. Yeah. So we've started the process of the trail, and we kicked it off with a feasibility study, which was a 1-year study that we did. It was a 10-member project team that worked on it, and they ran a series of tests and surveys, or sorry, not tests, but meetings. They had 18 stakeholder meetings. We conducted an online survey. It got over 1,100 participants responding. So all total, we collected 1,500 sets of comments that were taken into the survey. And the top 3 recommendations for trail activities that came back were: number 1, Tommy Trail for biking, running, walking, that type of activity. Number 2, using the trail as a connection point to get through destinations. And number 3, the opportunity to walk your dog or walk your pet. So those are the top 3 activities that came back from the information we collected.
So how long will the trail take to actually, start to finish, I guess?
Yeah, that's a good question. So we've completed the study, which we needed as a beginning point for some of the other activities, which include other things that are underway now: surveying, permitting. We've got to acquire right-of-way land. We are now identifying funding sources. It's a large investment to build a trail like this, especially out in the woods along water. So we're looking at grants, SPLOST funds, the ARC for funds, and partnerships with other nonprofit type organizations. So all these activities are underway. The point in time where you're actually going to see concrete come out of the ground and build sidewalks is really going to be determine how long these other activities take. So right now it's hard to pinpoint a time frame on that. What's exciting about it is, if you've ever been along Crooked Creek Trail, it's a part of the city that's really a hidden treasure. I mean, you can be out in the trail, look around, and you see a woods. It's hard to imagine that you're in the middle of Peacht Corners and part of Metro Atlanta, because it's so secluded there. And so
and it's not like no one can go on that trail. I mean, there is a trail there. It's just not going to be, as well done, right?
That's right.
Plan. So
this
cool.
is. I mean, it's exciting because I think Phil mentions 2.7 miles, which will be out of the entire 11.5 miles that will go throughout the city, and the bridge will connect to that. So I think the 2 areas that we're focused on at this point are the Crooked Creek Trail, as well as coming off the bridge. There will be trails down to what we refer to as the Botanical Gardens there, that area between where the Chase Bank is and where Town Center is. And so that will be developed as well. I think both those items are included in the 5-year capital improvement budget.
Exciting. Good to see good stuff happening in the city. I think as we get more residents coming into the city to live and work back to work, I guess. It's just a lot of things to do before and after and during work and playtime, right?
Absolutely.
We're talking about businesses. Let's talk about that CARES Act, because we are fortunate to be able to have the city providing some assistance here, but that deadline is fast approaching. So I'd like Weare to discuss that. Believe that deadline is November 5th for application. So tell us a bit about that.
That's correct, Rico. And it's on a fast timeline. We were fortunate as one of the cities in Gwinnett County to get CARES Act funds that we can use in manners that we think best will assist, the businesses in the city. And so we very quickly came up with a grant program for small businesses. I believe it's businesses under 100 employees. And as long as they can demonstrate they've been adversely affected by COVID, we're given a priority to certain industries. Obviously, restaurants, retail, storefronts are given a priority. And so as long as through the application they can demonstrate how they've been impacted by COVID, which very few businesses have not, right?
Right.
And then that deadline to submit that application is November 5th. And it's important to note that this is a grant. It's not a loan. It's not similar to the Paycheck Protection Program, PPP program, which required you to apply for forgiveness. This is a straight out grant. And again, end of the day, November 5th is the deadline to get that in. And then the monies have to be dispersed, I believe, by the beginning of December.
Wow. So immediate influx of money for those businesses that need it.
At a time that they really, you can argue they've needed it since March and April.
Right.
But since that time, it had not only the EDL, the Emergency Direct Loan Program from the government, had the Paycheck Protection Program. Gwinnett had its version of CARES Act, right? And
Right.
now the city has it. So, continuing to bring that relief, much needed relief, particularly to small businesses.
For sure. Glad to see that happening, because God knows there's still businesses that may end up closing if they don't get support at this point.
No doubt that there are several businesses that are right, at the brink. Do we continue? Do we not?
Right.
How are we going to continue at 50% capacity?
Right.
And, the city has done some things trying to think outside the box to help those businesses, whether it be in allowing some exceptions to signage and things that can help promote those businesses during this time.
Yeah, because things aren't changing too much. If anything, it looks like in the state of Georgia, things are going the wrong way at this point with COVID infections and stuff. So
we have ticked up. It'll be interesting to see over the next couple of weeks.
Yeah.
If that accelerates or if it levels off. Hopefully, the latter.
And especially during this time. Thanksgiving coming up, Christmas. The Peacht Corner is kind of funny. You get a lot of activity. But also a lot of people going away during some of these times, where it almost becomes like a ghost town in a way.
Yeah.
But I don't think that'll be happening, right? I think this time around, there'll be people traveling, I'm sure, taking some advantage of those discount travels and stuff, but be interested to see if a lot of people stay and try to go out to restaurants for the holidays.
Yeah.
I would imagine a lot of those restaurants are coming up with ideas to, provide turkeys and the fixings and everything. So you just go buy turnkey. You go buy and pick it up,
Right.
Or shoot. Some of them may deliver. Who knows?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm sure even with the blackout that we just recently had, I went out to get a cup of coffee and the line was wrapped around Dunkin' Donuts. Just people were out buying food and stuff, and there was not even enough stuff in the supermarkets, I think, for a little bit, for a day or so. But interesting. Let's talk about, let's move on a little bit now, and let's get Phil to come in, because it's closer to home for him, I'm sure. But let's talk about the expansion of Spalding Drive, because anyone that's driven down that road knows it's a pain. And it's going over this tiny little bridge with 2 lanes. And if you catch it the wrong time, this is just like hell sometimes. And until you get to the other side. But so tell us a little bit about what's going on with that expansion.
Yeah, and you're right, Rico. It can be difficult crossing that bridge. As a matter of fact, at the intersection of Spalding Drive and the Holcomb Bridge, if you're on Holcomb Bridge turning on to Spalding Drive, there's actually 5 lanes right there. And it narrows from those 5 lanes down to 2 lanes when you cross over the bridge. And this stretch of Spalding Drive is interesting because it's kind of a connection point for people coming from multiple points. Certainly those driving throughout the city of Peacht Corners, but it also someone coming from the city of Alpharetta, Roswell, Norcross, Doraville, Sandy Springs, Dunwoody. Many of those residents travel across this bridge right here. And if you imagine there's average 20,000 cars per day going down this stretch of the road. So imagine if you're walking, trying to cross this bridge, how unsafe and dangerous that would be. And so, in addition to the fact there's really not a place for people to walk, there's no curb and gutter. And when it rains heavily, the streets get flooded there, making it difficult for cars to drive through. So part of the plan includes taking that bridge out, replacing it with a new one, and at that specific point, expanding it from 2 lanes to 4 lanes. We'll add sidewalks, curb and gutter, drain improvements, and there'll actually be a 5th lane, which will be a center lane, turning from Spalding Drive onto
Nope.
On
the Winter's Chapel. I'll finish that.
Yeah, finish that off for me.
Under Winter's Chapel. No, the exciting thing about this project is it's not a project that the city really could afford to do in one bite on its own because it's a joint splosh project. The lion's share of the funding for this is coming from, believe it or not, the city of Sandy Springs and Gwinnett County. I think our contribution to it is somewhere in the line of $500,000 over 3 years. So it really is a great amenity and improvement that the city is getting because of this joint SPLOST program.
Well, good to see. I mean, that definitely is a place that needs work, and I'm glad to see that.
Well, it's going to be. I can't wait to see it because the bridge is. I think they're going to elevate the bridge about 9 feet above where it is now. So it's quite a heavy duty project. So it'll be fun to see that come to fruition.
Well, that probably engineering wise, that probably makes sense because if you're making it 4 lanes, I guess
that's right.
To be able to do that. To be able to have that space there. So, and you know what's funny? I never knew up until recently, up until a few years ago, I didn't realize Sandy Springs bordered right close there. I was like,
yeah, isn't that odd that as we call it, I guess the Little Publix that everybody affectionately refers to as the Little Publix is right. In the city of Sandy Springs.
Wow,
and the other 3 intersections there at Spalding and Holcomb Bridge are in the city of Peacht Corners.
Right, really odd. Well, let's. We had some technical part that Phil's going to come back on, but let's take you in and Weare, if you could talk with us about the little bit about the crime prevention initiatives that's going on with the city, and the cameras, the license plate recorders, and what's going on there. So give us a little understanding what's happening.
Sure. This is something. It's a brand new initiative, and we just have. I guess we're going to work it out with Flock, who provides the cameras, and we will be able to work with Gwinnett County Police, and they have identified, I think, the initial 25 locations for those cameras, which will be basically aimed as license plate readers that will pick up anybody coming into the city, and those 25 points will pretty much capture in the entire city. And so they're not red light cameras. They are license plate readers. So they're set up in positions so they will take pictures of license plates as those vehicles pass through the city. And if any of those plates have been reported, if the car's reported stolen, if it was used to commit a crime, that information gets directly to the Gwinnett County Police, and they can immediately send out, patrolmen in the area.
Right.
And so it should help provide even safer for our citizens here in Peacht Corners. So we're looking forward to that. I'm sure you want to ask about the neighborhoods being able to
Sure.
access, those again, they're license plate readers, not cameras. And the city will work with any subdivision neighborhood that wants to put that in. The program we were initially looking at would have allowed the city to get a better pricing on the cameras and pass those along to the neighborhoods. That program has been discontinued. And so we won't be able to take advantage of that. The city wants to work with any HOA neighborhood that would like to have the license plate reader available. City wants
So
to do that.
there'll be different things happening as far as how you're going to finance this, depending on the subdivision, whether they have an HOA.
Yes, that's right. Depending on whether they have mandatory HOA dues or not, is it in the right of way? Is it owned by the HOA? Those type of things will impact how that does. So there's really no size fits all. It's kind of
Right.
case by case basis, I think, is how we'll work through that.
All right, cool. I welcome it. I'm sure there are some people that think Big Brother is coming in to look at these things. I mean, we're not London where we have like a gazillion cameras looking at everyone, right? And the fact that these are license plate readers, not red light ticketing, not facial recognition type cameras.
That's right.
So,
And I think it's important to note that we will not be accessing those pictures.
Mhm.
They'll be, used by the Gwinnett County Police, and then only when there is a reason to do so.
right, and those reasons are predefined reasons
Yeah,
because
yeah.
maybe it's
And I
it's
think the data is only kept for 30 days, it's not like that's kept on file forever. So there has to be a crime committed, a report on file, during that time period to capture that.
And if a community would want that camera, let's say outside their entrance, exits, or even within, probably, let's say by swim and tennis club, those cameras are again still just for license plate recognition. If there was a burglary done, that would be one advantage to be able to see a car and be able to get the license plate at the time. And that would only be able to be accessed based on predefined conditions within the HOA or however that's done.
Yeah, ideally they would want to have that only accessed by the police department.
All right, cool, great.
Nice. Another advantage too, because our city borders other cities such as Dunwoody, in my district, and the way it can be set up is so that when there is a license plate that shows up as a bolo or a hot alert, not only can Gwinnett County Police be notified, but also the city of Dunwoody Police can be notified at the same time.
Excellent. So there's no confusion when someone calls 911 and what side of the road you're on, right? Which police officer comes?
Yeah, in District 1, people think Winters Chapel is the borderline between Dunwoody and Peacht Corners. It kind of is, but it goes like this. It goes in and out.
Yes. You wouldn't know where you are until that's the problem with borders. So, yeah, but I mean, we showed a map before, I think, about where those cameras would essentially be. That was this map. I mean, they're covering the whole city, which is good, right? I don't know if this is actually all the places, locations.
Yeah, I think there's probably been at our last city council meeting last week. We were shown an updated map with the LPR's license plate readers locations, and there's 25 of them around. Again, they're in positions so that they're capturing the traffic coming into the city.
Okay.
For example, Holcomb Bridge and Spalding coming in, coming east,
Sure.
up Buford Highway coming south into the city. Those places like that.
Yeah, I think our city's interesting in the fact that the through fare or the through traffic that we get along 141, Peacht Industrial, Holcomb Bridge, Jimmy Carter, people are coming through and out of the city. I don't think most people understand that most of the workers in the city don't even live in the city. So, you know, I think having security certainly should make people feel safer.
Mm-hmm.
And Gwinnett County Police have done a great job, I think, so far for us.
They really have, and that's one of the. I think that's sort of the unsung heroes for us in the sense that they provide great resources to the city. I think they keep us safe and do a great job, and our citizens get really what we pay in county taxes for police protection. Excuse me. Compared to what it would be if we stood up our own police department is quite eye opening.
Oh, I'm sure. You have to have your own SWAT team, your own police stations, and all that. The infrastructure. I mean,
it's very, very putting people and guns on the street is very expensive.
Yes, it's good to have experience.
So we're fortunate to have our relationship with the Gwinnett County Police has been a strong one, and we're fortunate to have that. And, certainly want that to continue.
Sure. We're reaching the end of our time together, but I do want to mention there is a drive-through flu shot clinic at the City Hall, November 5th. Now that's supposed to be free flu shot, I believe.
That's correct, Rico.
And I think people obviously we should encourage them to go out to get it because with COVID out there, God knows people don't need to have both of those things going on. The fact that the flu causes a lot of mischief also, and people getting sick, and because the symptoms are so close to COVID to a degree, right?
Yes.
Better off not having the flu. So that's happening. If you check the livinginpeachtreecorners.com, there's an article on there. If you go to Peachtree Corners city website, you'll also see the time and such on there as well.
It starts at 7:30 in the morning and runs until 1:30 in the afternoon.
Excellent. Thank you, Phil. Appreciate that. I guess the last thing I want to talk about or allow you guys to bring up is there anything, on your end that you'd like to share that either coming up you're familiar with, some civic stuff, some activities that you'd like to share as well?
Well, Phil, do you want to go?
Well, we've got, kind of from a social standpoint, we've got a couple of exciting activities coming up on November 11th. There's an activity at Town Center around the Veterans Monument. And then also we have our second annual Glow Parade at the Town Green, the Town Center, which is very exciting. It's a great time for kids and family to come out. Last year there was a special visit by Santa Claus. I'm sure he'll be back again. Lots of lights, lots of music, lots of food. So it's a good time. What's interesting is to be able to do it in a socially distant culture, which is very important and which we're going to make sure takes place. We have had a summer series of activities at Town Green in a way that we've been able to do it very, very safe, social distance and masks where necessary. So we'll continue along that same type of environment.
Yeah, considering with COVID, I mean, that's been successful, right? I mean, within days or actually within minutes on a couple of those concerts, the tickets were sold out essentially.
That has really been exciting that we have been able to safely do those events, and as long as we can continue to do them in a safe manner, we will continue to do so. A lot of places that don't have the advantage of being able to do that in the manner we can. So that has been rewarding to know that we've been able to do that.
Yeah, you know what's good too? I think right off town center, there's a fitness trail. And I don't know if that's officially opened yet or not. Some people are using it. We did a pet shoot there for our recent
Hmm.
issue. And we met up with some fitness club there. Actually, one of the city council members was there also working out and climbing the walls over there. Um, it's some really cool stuff going on there. So people should check it out.
More to come.
Yes.
Rico, one thing I would mention that Phil and I are going to be involved with, we're standing up a redevelopment board that is going to
That's
be
right.
focused on really the areas of town that we want to focus redevelopment on. It is very exciting. We had well over 30 applications
Wow.
for the positions we're going to have on the board, and 30 very good, well qualified folks. So we're excited about the energy that'll be around that as that board is probably formed over the next couple of 3 weeks, and then gets to work on looking at what we can do to revitalize some of the areas of the city um, that could use some of that.
Yeah, I'm excited to see that. I know there's been a lot of talk about doing that, about looking at some areas where maybe the city can help encourage further expansion, maybe multi-use, maybe redoing some retail spaces, old office buildings, maybe turned into something else. So, yeah, I mean, Jimmy Carter along those Holcomb Bridge, I mean, those areas certainly need some additional help, support
Yeah.
from the city.
So we're excited about that group coming together, and Phil and I have been asked by the mayor to sit on as non-voting members on that board. So we're excited to partner to do that.
Excellent. Good to have you guys. You know, it's been a pleasure. It's been a while since I've had either of you on, I think. So I'm glad that I'm able to be able to meet up like this, to be able to, get the information right from where it needs to be coming from. This way we don't get confused with facts and all that. So I'm glad to have that. Listeners, feel free to comment in the post, whether it's on YouTube or whether it's on the Facebook page. If you have further questions, just put them into the comments, and hopefully we can get some answers to you as well. So I want to thank you guys for being with me this morning. Phil Sod, City Council Person, Post 1, District 1, and Weare Gratwick, City Council Person, Post 6 at large. Thanks, guys, for being with us.
Rico, thanks. It's been a pleasure. Thank you.
Bye, guys.